The thing that wants to come through today is just reminding you how beautiful your expression is when you do the things you love that light you up, that make you feel joy, that give you little glimmers in the world. And sometimes it's not about doing this big, expansive thing. It's about the everyday moments.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Woo Curious Podcast. Your map to the mystical, your key to the sacred, and your guide back home to yourself. I'm Eileen, a writer, a spiritual coach, energy healer, and slow living witch. This podcast is your invitation to explore a world where the mundane and the sacred intertwine. It's a haven for those ready to take the first steps into the realms of magic and mystery, providing a safe space for you to embark on your own enchanted journey towards healing and self-discovery. Here, I'll unveil the whispers of the mystical, the rituals often hidden in plain sight, and I'll engage in sacred conversation intended to stir your soul and lead you back into your power. I'm all about demystifying woo and witchcraft. So, whether you're a seasoned seeker or simply woo curious, I'm so delighted you've decided to join me on this journey. Let's make magic. Hello, Woo Crew, and welcome back to another episode of the Woo Curious Podcast. I am your host, Eileen, and I am here today with a guest, Kelsey. Kelsey Anderson is an energy intuitive, author, and host of the Reclamation Podcast. Through her work and community, Reclamation Rising, she helps women reconnect with their intuition, navigate spiritual awakenings, and trust themselves in a world that constantly encourages them to look outside of themselves for answers. After leaving a successful corporate career to follow the call of her intuition, that's no easy feat, Kelsey devoted her life to exploring the intersection of mediumship, energy healing, consciousness, and personal transformation. Today, she bridges the mystical and the practical, helping people deepen their connection with themselves, the spirit world, and the wisdom already within them. Known for her warm, grounded approach and refreshing honesty, Kelsey brings a relatable voice to conversations about spirituality, self-trust, and what it truly means to reclaim your life. Welcome to the show, Kelsey. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me. I love the energy of being here.
Oh, good. Yay. I think it's going to be it feels like it's going to be a deep and soulful conversation. So I'm excited to see where we end up.
Me too.
So as you know, since you mentioned you've listened to a few episodes, I didn't forewarn you when we were prepping today, but my one question that I bring to everybody to start us off on the conversation is that one about your own journey with spirituality and what that's looked like in your life, however you want to let that question land, and then how it informs the work that you do today.
Such a rich and deep question, and I love hearing it, and now I love being asked it because it's so reflective. So when I think about that and I really let it land, there's a story that really lands for me, and it's about how life got really honestly challenging. So I would wake up, I would look at life around me, and I'd go, what do I want out of this? And it started in my mid-20s. I felt lost and confused in my career. I was bouncing between a lot of different corporate jobs and trying different things. And I just felt like I was living kind of a version of someone's life. I had gone through higher education, all these things. And then I was in this corporate consulting world, and that's when my body started speaking really loudly. So spirituality for me started in a breakdown of everything around me, my health, my job, my ability to feel like I was living a life I had created. And when that breakdown happened and I finally allowed myself to feel the complexity of what this was, a lot of this spiritual pull to things like sound healing and Reiki, all these beautiful modalities that I both was able to receive and then practice as a Reiki practitioner, it opened up my world. And that's when the psychic medium abilities came in. And that's when I went, okay, my inner self, my intuition's been speaking this whole time. And now I'm realizing that when I listen, then my life feels in alignment. So spirituality for me was a real time, truly step, pebble, stepping stone, lily pad, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. It was a real time experience of not knowing what was next and just having to kind of leap between everything.
That's beautiful and so resonant, I think, for so many people on the path, however it might be, that sense of our bodies holding the wisdom that our rational minds that have been so conditioned by the culture we live in can't wrap themselves around. It doesn't make logical sense. It doesn't follow the path that's been laid out for us. It doesn't conform to expectations. And so it often takes our body to tell us, like, hey, this isn't working.
Truly, it truly does. I feel that so deeply. And I feel like it's so many people's experience of that too. You know, I feel like a lot of women go through this. There's autoimmune. There's all sorts of things we start to have our bodies speak loudly, and we realize like they're our ally and we are inhabiting our soul energies within them. And we're supposed to work together and listen to each other instead of live from the shoulders up, which I think I was doing for a really long time.
Yeah, I think so many of us are, and still are, and or are working hard to stop living that way.
Yeah.
You know, thinking about the ways in which we're taught to override our body's signals from the time we're really little. And, you know, we're denied the ability to go to the bathroom in school because it's an inconvenience for the teacher. And what that tells our bodies from the time we're so little, that their wisdom, their signaling the messages they have for us aren't valid or aren't as important as the other people in the room or the agenda on the table.
Wow, that is a really important reflection. And I'm starting to think about all the ways in life we override that. We're taught to from the very minute. I feel like we're even in the school system or out on our own. And all the times we have to like override our own feelings in our body and in our intuition because that's what's expected of us. Yeah.
And then especially as women, because not only are we overriding, you know, hunger signals, need to go to the bathroom signals, we're also overriding the warning signals, the discomfort signals, that person is no good, that I don't want to hug Uncle Bob, to use the very cliched kind of example. Yeah.
Oh, feels like it ties into a lot of that. What I've experienced is good girl conditioning. Being the eldest daughter, being neurodiverse, being someone who had to mask a lot of my life and had these abilities early on, but was told and gaslit, I guess, in a way to say they're not real. And then you become kind of performative. If I'm good enough, it'll all make sense. If I make everyone else happy, I'll be able to be okay. And there's like a certain safety in that.
A huge safety. It was our belonging and our lovability were often predicated upon it, right? To please those around us. That was what was expected. It's really interesting. I was rage writing a poem in my head the other day on my bike ride to work. And it was like this, the title was like, we don't live in the same world. I was kind of speaking it to my partner. He hadn't done anything. I wasn't mad. I was just like, it came to me that like, we don't live in the same realities, and you will never understand the way that it feels to inhabit a female body and all of the things that we're expected to hold, all the expectations of how we'll perform, how we'll show up, how we'll be useful to others, how our bodies don't really belong to us. Yeah, it's like it's this sense of awakening in our culture right now where we're starting to see a lot of women coming home to this idea.
I really feel that. There's a collective shift, and I can feel the beginnings of that. Like everyone's at different phases of where they're at in that journey for themselves and their soul energy, but I really do feel collectively I'm seeing a little bit more discourse around it. I'm seeing women speaking about it in circles and places where they weren't able to access it before, especially in areas where maybe their physical communities are not as supportive of that, but now there's online communities and spaces where we can really connect with other women going through that as well.
Yeah, it's so important that rise or reclamation of the idea of sisterhood and connection between women and conversation and sharing. And it's like the slow move towards reclaiming community over individualization. And that, you know, oh my gosh, all my words today are just going to be, we're going to get there. But that like hyper independence piece that is so characteristic of our culture and what is really like prized as, you know, a strong, independent woman. And for most of human history, we were strong and interdependent women.
I love that, strong and interdependent woman. When you speak on that, it makes me think about how that mentality and that belief almost really did like take me out in the sense in motherhood, in postpartum. And by that, I mean, like the degree to which I was overgiving and had to really look at that belief, excavate it and rewire it and bring in a whole new belief system around that and start to say, if people aren't available for me to rely on, how do I reorganize my family? How do I call that support in? You know, it just was this whole energetic shift. But for me, it didn't really click in or wasn't as apparent until that postpartum period.
Right. Yeah, I feel like that's true for a lot of women, a lot of women that I speak to. I don't have children myself, but I've watched it in my friends and the ones who, I mean, I think motherhood shakes everyone. You know, it rocks your foundation. It shifts you to your core. It's a huge portal of transformation. I was a midwife prior to doing the work that I do now. So I was privileged enough to witness firsthand and be there through those first moments. But can you share a little bit about how you did actually navigate that? How did you change the boundaries or shift the ways in which you were relating with people so that you could find that network or support?
It's really one of the moments, and I'm happy to share. I feel open about this because I wish I had walked into this information prior, but I didn't. So I was real time, again, living it step by step. It was a big initiation into trusting my intuition, trusting my inner wisdom. And even though I felt like I had been doing that on behalf of someone else is very different than doing it for yourself. And for me, we did move closer to family, thinking that would be the thing that would help. But really, it was an inward journey. I had to say, every single part of parenting, every single part of sleep, like co-sleeping and baby wearing and all the things, I was so drawn to doing it just a way that I felt was natural. But every bit of rhetoric and book and opinion was really the opposite or antithesis of that in the areas that we were living. And so I had to go against the grain. And like, I remember being in a new parents group and everyone there was talking about how they were going to sleep train and do all these things. And I just went, I'm doing this a totally different way. I have to find that community. So when I was able to find that community and see other moms holding their, guiding light, being like, we do it this way, I was able to say, okay, they trusted their intuition. I'm going to trust mine. And that's when things smoothed out for me. That's when I was able to start sleeping better and I wasn't overgiving as much. And I would ask for help from all the people I needed it from or hire support. We did a lot of that. We had the privilege of looking at our resources and saying, we're going to shift them to this area because this is what's most important right now. And so I think through all of those different things, fundamentally, when I trusted my inner voice, and it was little pings, little whispers, don't do that, maybe don't try that food, bring them with you, whatever it was, right? It was simple in the moment, but when you add them all up, it's compiled into your overall well-being, I feel like.
Yeah. And what a beautiful example and sharing. I was just thinking as you were speaking of my sister's journey with sleep training and how it really set off this years of struggling with sleep for my nephew because he wasn't ready for it. Some kids do great with it. Some kids, it's the perfect solution for them. But I remember my mom saying to me that she thought my sister really didn't actually think it was a good idea, but she was feeling pressured into it, whether that was from her partner or other moms who'd had success with it or just cultural in general. And I think that's something that, you speak to in your work, that how frequently women get talked out of their own knowing and their own intuition, because intuition isn't loud. No. And it's not logical.
No, it's not either
by definition, right?
And it makes it hard. To your point, talking about some things around conditioning and where we're taught to disembody, I think intuition is a big piece of that, because when women especially are in their intuitive sense, they have that inner knowing, they have that self-trust built, it makes them far less controllable, far less impressionable, and they do things for themselves and their own well-being over a societal idea of the moment in a cultural period or time that is seen as the norm. And so for me, when you're in that state of power, it makes things like yeses and nos really easy because you're not going against someone else's, checklist of what you should be doing. It's just coming from within. And that is, that feels like what I had to walk home to. And especially in order to teach it, I believe that a lot of times we go through immense challenges in our life in order to learn from them and then be able to pass that on to others.
Yeah. Isn't that the way of it? Almost always.
I know.
I think for those of us on any kind of healing or guiding paths who are in alignment and in integrity, I think it's almost always the case that it's like, I lived this, I experienced this. I can show you a way forward. Might not be the way, but it's a way.
It's a way.
Yeah, maybe I can save you a few of the roadblocks or hurdles or what have you, or at least be a guiding light as you stumble.
Yeah. I really love that guiding light feeling. I really, the transition in my work too has been, let me return you to yourself and teach you to trust yourself and teach you like anything that would help as far as practices or what it feels like, what it looks like, just so that instead of outsourcing that to others, you can, and I still do. I love getting help from mentors and teachers and women. I mean, I feel that is so valuable, but fundamentally building a practice of self-trust helped to know when to reach out for others' support.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world for sure. Something else that we skirted around at the beginning, talking about the body and her signals, and something that you speak to is that like, that idea, as we said, we're kind of on this journey as a society, the feminine half of society anyways, towards this kind of remembering, this awakening. There's a move towards hopefully some rebalancing between the feminine and masculine principles in the universe. And part of that journey for a lot of people into spirituality is to kind of remove themselves even further, like talking about getting intuitive and all of that, but then we end up in this like very spiritual, ungrounded space, where we forget about our material bodies. And something that you speak to is how awakening is like, it's a homecoming to our bodies. It's not about escaping that body and being human. Can you speak to that a little bit more?
I absolutely can. And this has been a shift because I was that person that when I started that spiritual journey, I thought it was about meditating silently 6 hours. I mean, I was in these big like mindfulness-based stress reduction, these all-day meditation retreats, these just feeling like I was up and in the air, I guess is the best way I could put it, like floating through my own life. And it was beautiful and I felt safe, but nothing in the sense of like I felt connected to my senses. I felt connected to my clear senses. I was receiving information, and that can be really fun and really exciting when you haven't received in that way before. But what I found is that nothing that was going on with my body and the health challenges was actually just continuing to get worse, even though I felt more connected than ever from a spiritual sense. But someone said to me, it feels like you're floating. And I was like, yeah, it does. So when I realized that for me, reclamation and coming back home and coming to this inner awakening is for me what spiritual awakening is about. It's awakening our soul energy from this earth existence. It's awakening to all the beauty around us, the joy, the awe, the whimsy. It's really saying, I'm going to have this very real human experience. And instead of escaping it, I want to know how I can feel my way through it, be with it, and it not feel like I have to escape it anymore. Yeah. And so that's what my work centers on now. And that's like my personal life. That's how I live with my family, is saying, how do I marry this intuition and these clairs and psychic abilities with being able to face all of life boldly, beautifully, and openly without it feeling like it's crushing me. So being excited to live the humanness, the 3D part.
Yeah, which is the whole point, right? Even if we think about, depending what your beliefs are in terms of soul and reincarnation and all of that jazz, this is the light. Like, we chose this.
We did.
Right? And why would we have chosen this if only to escape from it? I think that's not the point. It's about putting your feet in the dirt and like feeling the emotions, and they're messy and they're raw and they don't fit neatly into boxes. And there is this sense that, ever since kind of that Enlightenment era philosophy of like separating humans from the rest of the natural world and separating our minds from our bodies, and we lost the like juice of being a human enmeshed in the web of life. And I think it's a huge factor of all of the harms that we're seeing today against one another, against the earth, the ability to be extractive and exploitative of other people and of the body of the earth herself comes from this sense that we are separate from and we're other than, and we are not our bodies. But we are our bodies. And we are not separate from. We are nature. We are as much a part of nature as any tree or fungi out there.
We are nature. That was a massive turning point, just to recognize that. Everything you said, I feel like I'm taking it in, and my body's going, yes, keep speaking. I want to hear this, because it feels nurturing. It feels like a reminder. It feels like something, again, that walking home of, oh, we're meant to be enmeshed in it all. Like you said, the web of life. That is our place in this experience, is to be in this reciprocal relationship with the world, the natural world around us, more so than things or synthetic things or stuff. And it makes me think, I was telling you, we were out at the garden earlier today. We're part of a community garden here. And my son and I were laying in the grass, and we were like, all right, let's see what we can see. And I just, for a while, watched this ladybug. And I was just thinking the intelligence of this ladybug. You know, if from our view, we're walking through the grass, stomping around. But there's this beautiful ladybug that is watching her intelligent life and what she did in those moments. And I think when you get down even more grounded and you really sit with the earth, get down on the level of a lot of living things, you start to see that there is a vast world around you, but we move so fast and we forget that sometimes.
Yeah, so fast. So much of the work that I do is about slowing down. And slowing down to connect with our bodies, with the earth, with our thoughts, and that distancing from the sensory overload that we are in. It's funny as I say that, because, you know, the beauty of nature is a sensory overload in and of itself, but it's so different than the constant kind of doing or striving or yearning or fixing that we're doing in our own lives. There's like that constant consumption that we've gotten into, whether it be of things or of media or information or what have you. And it often strikes me, I think there's a reason that every woman I talk to is like, let's run away to the forest and start a commune. Can we go off grid? And the reality is that that most of us can't. We don't have the skills anymore.
It's true.
And so, I'm part of a neighboring practice right now, and one of the tools to become a better neighbor, and that means to self, to others, to earth, is to cultivate useful skills that could help you survive if shit goes sideways, which it kind of is.
We're kind of in it right now.
It's an interesting place to think about. You've written a book recently, and at the time of recording it's not out, but by the time people are listening to this, it will be in bookstores everywhere, I imagine. Can you tell me a little bit about what is your book about? What inspired it?
So when I sat down to write this book, it was intended to be a 10 to 20 page guide that I would offer.
I love that.
And I thought, okay, I'll just offer it, like through my channels of where I have my offerings.
Right.
And then when I came out, my husband's like, are you still writing? And I was like, yeah, it's really long. It's starting to get bigger. And he's like, why don't you just, I'll handle bedtime, just write until, which he does a lot, which is wonderful. And and he's like, just write till you can't, just don't stop. And what I realized was happening was, although it was me bringing it through, it was not me bringing it through, because I felt like I was, the best way I can describe it is, there was these cords of golden light coming through, and I was grabbing them and then stringing them through my fingers onto a page. So it was like that. That was the experience. It was 5 days I didn't leave the house. I just couldn't stop. I could I could have for an emergency maybe, but nothing in me could stop. It almost felt like this was a moment to grab it and put it out. And what's really interesting about the book, which is called The Signal, Listen to Your Intuition Through the Noise of Modern Life, it when I read it back, it was triggering for me, meaning I had to go through the work myself. And so I've now wrote it and read it back 5 or 6 times through edits. And every time I'm sitting there with the practices and the words and I'm going, okay, it's like shadow work all over again. You know, it's really asking myself to see things. So I knew it came from a place that was more of like a higher self or soul aspect, because it was asking me to do the work alongside it.
Wow. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's interesting. It brings to mind the experiences of so many authors I've read. You know, Elizabeth Gilbert talks about it in Big Magic, and I feel like there's a couple. The Artist's Way, she talks about it in there too. That sense of we're the channel, of being the channel for inspiration, whether that be from self, from universe, from energy, whatever, wherever the source is. I think most artists speak to that experience of like, well, I mean, I was the vessel through which it came into being, but it is not mine.
That's how it felt. And I had read those beautiful words. I'd loved Big Magic. I had done The Artist's Way. Those are great examples of that. And I knew about this experience, but it was so comforting to know about it before feeling it, because I could just, again, trust, okay, a lot of artists talk about receiving work in this way, being the vessel for it, and trusting it. And so it wasn't my intention to write a book, but now that I have, it makes sense. I understand why.
Right. Oh, and yeah, what a like taxing and yet beautiful experience, and so lovely that you have a partner who's able to support your ability to drop into that space and really harness it.
Yeah, I feel really grateful. And I feel like over the years, they say we've dated now, it's probably 8 or 9 different versions of each other, because you're constantly evolving within a partnership. And he's seen me go through the evolutions of it all, from like big corporate kind of thinking I should climb this corporate ladder to completely different work and life experience and energy. And I felt really grateful he enabled the space to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very aligned souls traveling on a path together. And I would love to actually, speaking of your corporate journey and then your exodus from it, I'd love to chat a little bit about that, because I think that's one of the jumps or the leaps of faith that so many people who are called to this kind of work have to make. And it can be the scariest and the hardest, because like you did the things, you achieved the job, you're making the income. You know, for me, leaving midwifery was like a huge loss of income initially. I had so many midwives be like, oh, lucky, I wish I could leave. I'm like, well, I'd be like, I'm not set up to leave, I just have to. I'm just listening. But can you share about your experience with that a little bit?
Yeah, you spoke to all of the things that I think are really important points that people wonder about, worry about, ask about. To be fair, I had no idea what I was going to do. I had this small child who at the time, I think I left when he was about 8 months old, even though I'd been on leave for a long time. So I really did leave before he was born. And I will say I'm grateful I had a partner that did have an income, because that would have informed my choices in a much different way had I not. But we still went from 2 incomes to 1 really quickly. So what we ended up doing to support this is we downsized everything. We changed everything. We went down to a 1-car household. We just really decided that we were going to shift the way that we lived our life. And we moved states. We did a bunch of things in that regard. It was a huge identity shift, but I just knew I could not be there anymore. I had to quit. And I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was creating. I was lucky enough to do some part-time work in consulting, work within a family business, but it was all for people I loved and things that were inspiring at those few hours a week while I built this alongside. So it took me 6.5, 7 years since I had initially that first website and logo and was doing hands-on healing in a healing studio. And then over time, I've just built it while I was living it, and it's had many evolutions. For people who are think about quitting, and this is similar to you, sometimes when you get the nudge, there's like multiple ways it can go, but there's also a couple of distinct paths for people, I find. One is I stay in my job and I build the thing alongside it till I'm ready to shift. For me, it was I kind of tend to burn things down and build them as I go and just know it's going to be okay. But it did have challenges. We had to make a lot of life choices and shifts. And it was also incredibly worth it, because my time was with my child and with the love of this work. And I got to do that. I got to trust myself enough to do that. Was it scary? Absolutely. Did I question my sanity multiple times? Definitely.
Probably still do if you're like any other entrepreneur.
Every other week, I'm like, what are we doing? Because it's such a roller coaster. So if you need stability, there's ways to build that in within the entrepreneurial journey. Maybe it's something alongside it. But for better or worse, I jumped.
Yeah. I have a similar story of jumping, minus I have a partner who helps out a bit, but we're not totally 50-50, but close still.
Yeah.
We hadn't been together. I think we'd been together for like a year when I was like, here we go. So a very different kind of situation there for us.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really just felt like I knew I couldn't be there anymore. But I think there's also like this sense, I don't know, the thing that kept floating in my mind as you were speaking too is like, what about for those people who they want to live a more intuitive life, a more connected life. They want to come home to themselves, but they actually don't have the desire or ability to leave corporate. Maybe corporate's working just fine for them.
Yeah.
And also they're, struggling with all the things that come along with that corporate or traditional world, often really patriarchal structures within them, and that sense of overworking and overachieving in order to be a valued employee and all of those things. Yeah, I don't know if you'll have an answer there. I'm just curious to talk about it with you a little bit.
Actually do have an insight, maybe not an answer, but an insight, because I went through many multiple roles in business management consulting, which I was in. You're with clients in all different industries. So from cybersecurity to technology and hospitals and everything in between. And what I found for me is that if I had stayed in corporate, one thing I knew for sure is that as I shifted, I was going to have to shift the company's roles and environments to match. What was the biggest push is when I was going through a lot of these shifts and spiritually having changes in my life and my beliefs and living from more a place of like love and just loving people so fully. My heart was tender and vulnerable, and I needed clients or spaces in my corporate work that were more tender and vulnerable oriented. So if you take your energy of who you are becoming or who you intend to want to be in this world, but you like the structure and the stability and you like showing up and solving big problems, it's not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, and I don't suggest it for everybody either.
No.
Like, honestly,
do I suggest it for anybody?
I really miss, like, there's times where I miss that showing up and having coworkers I love so dearly and laughing and having that. And it's a beautiful thing. But if you feel you love those parts, maybe look at who you are. And if you're open to finding a new environment, sometimes it can be easier to tell someone who you are when you go into a new space. Like, I have these work hours, these boundaries, I do these things for myself, and kind of lay it all out there for an employer as much as you feel comfortable. And if you get hired with them knowing that about you, it's not a reinvention within your current way people know you. It's just being who you are from the start. So that's maybe one insight that has helped me a lot. It was a lot easier for me to make transitions when I was in spaces like that.
That makes so much sense. I mean, even thinking about how in my own life as I evolved, often I would evolve out of, we evolve out of relationships, right? Whether it's friendships, whether it's sometimes romantic relationships. And it often feels, and sometimes we're with the person we want to be with, but it often feels like it would be way easier to just change all those behaviors and patterns and beliefs if we could just like start fresh, right? Yeah. And because again, you're right, then you're not coming up against the previously understood and known versions of you as mirrored back, or expectations that have been put in place because of the past history. And with workplaces, that is easier to just be like, okay, I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna go find a workplace where the ethic is matched, or where I get to show up as this new version of me without having to fight against the kind of pushback that might occur if we're shifting in situ.
Yeah, and both come with challenges for sure, but I tend to think that it depends how much change or change management you're willing to do for yourself. Yeah. And if the people surrounding you are open-minded enough to accept that you're allowed to change. Yeah. So it's so situation dependent, but yeah.
Totally it is, for sure. Juicy. Yeah, interesting to think about. I'm really curious to know a little bit more about the work that you do. You mentioned healing work, hands-on was where you started. How do you work with people today?
It's been an evolution, which has been an interesting piece too. We don't always allow ourselves to evolve. So it's been like a grief and then shift, a grief and a shift every time. I started with Reiki hands-on work. I still love that work. I do it less. I do it more in group settings and at retreats and those types of environments where we're gathered as women. And then when it comes to the offerings I have now, so I have a community that's launching called Remembrance Rising. It's an online community where it's teaching and it's gathering and it's monthly calls and classes. So that is a space that people can work with me. And then I still do offer one-on-ones. They just look a little different. So I have something called a soul guidance session where it's intuitive reading. So it does bring in that psychic aspect and intuitive aspect and guidance. And then I have something called the Inner Oracle, which is my deepest work one-on-one container, which walks people through the same process that I use in my own life and my own work that helps people walk through like connecting to themselves, releasing what they're ready to release, attuning to the spirit world, to the unseen, to their intuition, and then illuminating their path forward.
Beautiful. All of those offerings are really resonant. There's so much alignment in our work and the way that we move in the world, which is beautiful. But if for folks who are wanting to connect with you and learn more about any of those offerings or just ask any questions they might have, what's the best way for them to do that?
It's a spacious and beautiful question. I like to offer as much as I can for people. So if you want a place to start and get to know me, YouTube is really great because I offer a lot of long form videos there. And my website is full of resources as well, which is Kelsey Anderson Intuitive. So that's what it is for everything at Kelsey Anderson Intuitive. Makes it really, really easy.
Oh, I love that. Mine is not the same everywhere. Like staring down the barrel of like, do I change it? Do I not? This is a lot of work.
It's so hard to choose. I know.
I know. Hindsight is always 20/20. And of course, for listeners, those resources or ways to connect with Kelsey will be below in the show notes as always. Before we bring this beautiful conversation to a close today, is there any last messages, words of wisdom, guidance that's coming through that you want to share with the listeners?
I feel this whisper of yes, so I'm going to just lean in and trust what comes through since I'm not going to overthink it. I feel like the thing that wants to come through today is just reminding you how beautiful your expression is when you do the things you love that light you up, that make you feel joy, that give you little glimmers in the world. And sometimes it's not about doing this big, expansive thing. It's about the everyday moments. I like to call those like those micro-aligned moments where you choose yourself, you choose your intuition, you choose that nudge, that whisper, that gut feeling, and you get to prove to yourself how that shakes out in the world. So if you're curious and open and feeling really drawn to this, see what it's like to bring that energy into your life. See what it's like to live that, because I'm feeling like so many of us are exploring that alongside each other. And it's that exploring and curiosity and the energy of allowing ourselves to be experimenting in our own life that I think really allows us to land in energy spaces and with people that feel most aligned. So I'm just really giving you this like warm hug and this feeling of you can do it because you already are.
Beautiful. I love that. It's a lovely place to land us as we wrap up, and make sure everybody go buy her book, The Signal, How to Listen to Your Intuition Through the Noise of Life.
Yeah. Modern life. Yeah.
Modern life. I was like, I didn't quite write all the words down.
I know there's a lot.
But that sounds like the perfect resource to accompany this practice. And I love that you ended us on this. It's the little moments, the day to day, because it's so true. That's where we live our lives. So thank you. Thank you so much for being my guest today, Kelsey. It's been a pleasure. To everybody listening, make sure you go connect with Kelsey on socials, send her an email, get on her mailing list, check out all her offers, and definitely get yourself a copy of that book. If you liked this episode, please leave a rating, a review, subscribe, comment if you're on YouTube, and share it with a friend. It helps ever so much. I will be back here with you same time next week. Bye for now.